Ladies and gentlemen, actually, maybe just gentlemen, I don't know. Welcome to the inaugural. Is this live? It is live, right?
We're
Okay, good.
live.
Okay, it's not a prank. Yeah, welcome to the inaugural Men's League Arena. We're very excited to have everybody join us for the first time. A little bit different format than we normally run with our huddles and what we used to do over COVID, but yeah, basically, this is an opportunity for everybody to kind of follow along. We have our core four plus Derek here to kind of talk on topics, and we're going to be running one of these once a month, every month moving forward. So yeah, we invite all people to join us through our Discord. So we're going to start posting the link in our Discord. We're going to have people sign up for the Discord, men only, to click the link, sign up, join us, and engage in the conversation through the chat function. So essentially, what we've done here is we've prepared a list of questions around a topic, and we'll be discussing those things and hopefully see and hear from the Men's League members through our chat. You're encouraged to share your thoughts, ask questions, engage in the conversation, make fun of Fabian, whichever you prefer, you are welcome to do. So, without further ado, this is going to be great. Our first time. I really can't. I cannot wait. We're going to look back at this day with a big smile on our face, boys. I cannot wait when we're at Arena, 100 or whatever it's going to be. But maybe what I'll do is I'll go around the room and we'll let everybody introduce themselves, say hi, and then I will introduce the topic of the evening and kind of kick things off from there. So to my left is Mr. Fabian Warner. Please say hello.
Great. I'm having all kinds of issues today. It's our first arena. I'm feeding the baby. I'm trying to get her on time. My computer's not working. I don't have the link. Here we are. Hey guys, Fabian Warner. Not much to say yet, but looking forward to the discussion. It's always great when I get to chat with these guys. So looking forward to seeing how the conversation bounces. Hopefully we can keep it to an hour, but with the chatty Cathy's we have on the phone here, it would be interesting to see how agenda stays on point. But that's it for me, man.
Yeah, you're in luck. I hold all the power. There's a large stop button just below Stefan that I can hit at any point in time. So yeah, and that is kind of my main role here. I'm going to engage in the conversation, but I'm also going to be facilitating and making sure we're moving along and covering everything that we wanted to for this hour. And we did start a few minutes late, so we'll be able to run it a little past 8. Stefan, you're up next.
What's up? I'm Stefan Irizarry. I am the only U.S. member of this team here, which means I
that a
just get
fact?
made fun of in a way. No. It means this is the one place I get made fun of as like the one sole single person. We usually make fun of everybody else, as you all know. Within men's league, I do some writing, and outside of men's league, member of the military. I'm coming from South Carolina, and yeah, that's it.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. I had a laugh when you sent in your question today. You forgot the "you" in words like favorably and a few other things. So yes, definitely the telltale sign that list came
Yeah,
from the USA. So great to have
we
you,
don't
man.
waste
Honestly.
time with those extra vowels for no reason. We waste time with other
Yes.
things.
My spell check was going off. It's like, what are you doing here, man? Next up on the list, Mr. Atlas.
What's going on, everybody? I also tend to forget the U, so I'll own that one. I'm not meant to be up in this cold. Hello, everyone. Atlas here. I'm not from the States, and I don't get made fun of the same way Stefan does, but I am grateful to be here, excited for this arena. Honestly, let's just get to it.
Nice. All right. Appreciate that. Last but certainly not least, Mr. Kerry Kish.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, nope. Excited to get in. My name's Kerry. Been part of Men's League for a little bit. So, as we say, but yeah, excited to dig in. New format and excited to see we've got some viewers joining in live. So, welcome to all of you and to the first of many.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you very much, guys. Appreciate the intro, and like you, I am very excited for the conversation here today. We will be talking about suicide today. Up here in Canada, it is Suicide Awareness Month, and it is a topic that a lot of men are faced with dealing with in a lot of different capacities, a lot of different kind of ways. And so yeah, we figured this first arena is a great time to kick off, with a relatively serious topic, but one that is as prevalent kind of in all of our lives. So yeah, we're really excited to kind of tackle that question and that topic amongst ourselves and amongst our members. So yeah, without further ado, a little bit of background for our members and our guests. We had everybody send in a question around the table here previously, and not surprising to me, there was an underlying thread through each of them. These great minds, obviously, we talk a lot about this stuff, and we deal with men's mental health all the time. So yeah, I think it's a really strong list, and I'm excited to jump into it. So first and foremost, guys, I'm going to start it off with a little bit of a light one here. In a time when men are encouraged to show emotion and communicate, why do so many men still internalize their thoughts and feelings when they are in challenging times of their lives? I'm going to go with the same order. Feel free to ask. I'll repeat the question if you guys need it. But Fabian, lead us away, my friend.
We're gonna have to talk about this order thing, man. I threw the short straw first on everything.
We'll go reverse on the way back.
No, yeah, it's okay.
It's a snake draft here. Yeah.
So why you're saying in today's era where we're encouraged to talk about our emotions and be vulnerable, why we still struggle to do so? I think, in my personal opinion, and again, I'd say, like, I'm not a psychologist or a mental health professional by any stretch, but I would say that, just because we're accepting something now doesn't reverse everything we've been taught our whole lives. I'll put the example as this: is obviously we started this movement for Men's League. We've been in that space to have conversations, to be around people that accept what we're talking about, to be encouraged by the people we're around. We've been around a lot of psychologists. We've been around a lot of friends that support what we're doing. And even me, when push comes to shove and it's in my own personal life, I find myself struggling with it. There's been probably, since we started Men's League, it's probably been like 3 times that I've like had a breakdown to a certain degree and like had a little bit of a cry. And it was like hard for me to do it. Like my body was like not responding. It was like I knew it was trying to come out, and I was like holding it in. So I think just because we accept and acknowledge that vulnerability and sharing our emotions and stuff is probably good to a certain extent, I think that years of being brought up and taught that's not the way, it kind of still governs that to a certain degree. So it's going to take time. And I think you and I have always talked about that, Derek, since the start. It's going to take time, right? So I think that would be my answer, trying to keep it within kosher. I know other gentlemen want to share, but that would be my off the top answer to that.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I appreciate that insight, and obviously agree with you. We've been doing this for a couple of years now, and it's you're definitely bang on with that response. So, Stefan, how do you feel so many men still internalize their thoughts and feelings at this point in 2025?
Because I don't think being vulnerable and internalizing thoughts and feelings or expressing them outwardly bridges the gap between being vulnerable and still being able to be useful. Something about being vulnerable is that for that time that you're vulnerable, you're not good for as much as you usually are, which is completely fine. That's the whole point, is that you take a step back, you take a knee, and you take some time to, figure out whatever it is you have to do and regroup. But in that time of vulnerability, you're still taken out of the fight. You're still taken out of life in a very limited capacity to where you aren't as capable as you typically are. And I don't think we've been able to bridge that gap yet between, at least not effectively and not on a mass scale for men, where we can be like, hey, yeah, it's okay to be vulnerable. You should definitely take some time to, go off to the side and handle what you have to handle, and be weak for a little while and be like, that's okay. Um, but where do we go from there? We're still figuring that part out. I've said this, Fabian, I've said this for a long, long time. We're kind of stuck in the vulnerability thing. I do think it's a little bit better now. Um, but that's why I think men are still, sort of succumbing to the darkness a little bit, because they don't know how to make that leap from being vulnerable to getting back to being useful and being strong again. Your sound's off, Derek.
You're muted, Derek.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
that's a
all the
good
power
point.
in
Listen, yes, I muted it, and I was trying to say let's. I'm gonna ask everybody else when you're not speaking to mute their mics. I was doing it so well that I forgot to unmute. So, yes, episode 1, the trials and tribulations. I love it. Thank you, Fabian, for muting, and thank you for your answer, Mr. Irizarry. Atlas, we're going around the room here. You are next. And again, the question is, in a time when men are encouraged to show emotion and communicate, why do so many men still internalize their thoughts and feelings when they're in a challenging time of their lives?
I mean, the obvious answers I think come through with being stoic and strong and pushing through and navigating life's trials and tribulations on your own, right? I think that if we can get through it, then we're deemed strong. Like, look at this, I did this on my own. I don't need anybody. That like individualistic mindset really comes through. And then I think I noticed, like, from my experience, I usually kept quiet because one of the reasons I didn't have the language, like, I didn't really know what I was going to say anyway. Like, how was I going to word this? What was I going to say? When I talk to my clients sometimes, like, how do you feel? And there's not like a connection to a word. It's kind of almost confusing sometimes. Like, I don't really know what to give you. And that's how I felt. I didn't really know what I could have said in offering what I was going through or what my struggle even was. I just knew that the inner dialogue was a mess, was definitely chaotic, and I couldn't really piece it together super well. And so that's kind of been my experience, is it just like lack of language, couldn't really piece it together super well. And so I noticed that similar thing comes up where, like, I have to push a little bit more. That second question of, how are you? Good. How are you? Okay, great. Now, how are you really? And it's almost like sometimes it's 3 and 4 more questions down the road where I finally can almost like create enough space for that person to say, give me more information or share a little bit more with me about what's really happening. But I just noticed that it doesn't really come at the beginning because there's so many protective pieces of the pie that are in the way. And same with me, just a lot of protective pieces in there that are just, I don't know, holding back, scared, worried, fearful. So I bargain. A lot of it is, to wrap that all up, like fear and probably control is kind of what comes out for me. Remaining in control based on that fear of something.
That's a beautiful answer, man. That's really great. I remember the first time I saw the wheel of the different emotions. I believe it's like 140 different emotions.
Yeah.
And my mind just exploded. I knew sad, mad, pissed off, happy. I could count on this many fingers how many emotions I actually knew how to articulate and thought I knew how to feel, which, ended up, half of them ended up being I was feeling a different emotion. I just didn't even have the name for it. So I think that's
I
a
remember
really, really
when
strong point.
I first opened the Atlas of the Heart by Brene Brown, and I immediately closed it. I was like, I don't know what those words are, and I got that's too much.
So wait till you guys start having your kids, and you start to see them experience all the emotions. It's very interesting. It kind of takes you back a little bit, but
Interesting.
you'll see.
Yeah, very, very interesting thought there. I'm sure it's a eye-opening and hopefully like educational experience for you to be like, oh, is that emotion that I'd never identified, but yet they are, there it is. Yeah,
I'm,
super
I'm
cool.
looking forward to Kerry on that one because he's got like grown
There you go. There you
grown
go.
ups, so he's had to go through the like none of us have done that yet. So I
We
think you
call
got to give
that
us
we
some
call
insight
that an
right
alley
now.
oop, Gary. That was
Yeah,
a through the
you guys are
ball.
moderating this call myself. I don't even need to transition. Here we go. Kerry Kish, knock it out of the park.
The wily veteran of the group, I guess, from an age perspective, anyways. But yeah, no, and happy to share about that. But going back to the question, I think that, yeah, a little bit of a layered answer. I think that depending on where men are at from, an emotional intelligence and awareness and where we've gone in our journeys, what we've experienced, what we haven't, I think originally similar to Atlas, I think guys, don't speak up because we are, the whole narrative of society that we all talk about, boys don't cry, suck it up, princess, and away we go, right? And it's like a badge of courage for you to do things on your own and not have to share anything or lean on anyone for help, right? And then as we dig into the work, as we call it a little bit, we realize that there's actually a lot of benefit and value in sharing and expressing yourself from a point of growth, right? And expansion. And I think that when guys finally dive into that and they have the words to share and they know where that is, I think that the next step to that is finding a space where it's able to be held and received in a conversation and just, I mean, sometimes just like, as we've talked about in some of our relationship chats in the huddle, is that sometimes you don't need to answer someone or solve their problems. You just need to hold space and listen. And I think that guys get uncomfortable if everyone's sitting around having, beers one night or talking after hockey or something like that. And then someone goes, oh, you know what? And I'm really kind of not doing okay. And then it's like, you can hear a pin drop for 10 seconds and someone's like, well, anyways, how about this, and then it's like, and then we go. So I think that's part of it. But when we dig in and we move past those two steps, I think the big thing, and I can speak to this from personal experience, right? When we hit those dark chapters where there's confusion and uncertainty and you're not sure what the future has in store, I think for me, the big reason why I didn't kind of express, because I had a network of people that were willing to chat, but I think the big thing for me was that judgment that I thought came along with that expression, right? You're supposed to be able to put it all together. You're the guy that's running the business, that running the family and this, you've got all this. And to show that you've got a chink in your armor is almost like admitting defeat and rolling up and calling it quits, but it's not, right? So I think that's where a lot of guys, they feel that there's guilt and shame and everything associated with that. But I tell you, it exponentially, it's the other way around. You exponentially shorten the time that you're in those dark chapters when you do have that, the courage and vulnerability to speak up and share and find that spot. So that's my 2 bits.
No, yeah, very, very wise of you, Kerry. So thank you for those. Last time we make an age joke, I promise, because we're all getting there. Don't worry.
I can take it, man. I can take it, but I'll be dishing it out too. So just be ready.
It's not like we're all young chickens here, so I appreciate it, and you look great. There was another question about that was like very much kind of aligned from a different member here, and it just talks more specifically about the suicide rates and the availability of men's support groups in today's world. Men's League being a prime example of that. Kerry, you discussed the huddle. That's for those of you listening, that's our monthly bi-weekly call that we get together and kind of chat around a topic, open to all members. But so yeah, again, it's kind of a second part to that question. Understanding that there's men's groups available. We're in a time now where communication, emotion, vulnerability to a point is encouraged amongst men. Is there something that suicide rates are still very real? They're still very high for men. Do you guys feel like there's a contributing factor that we just haven't realized yet, that we haven't come across? I'll let you guys chew on it. Kerry, you're going to go first. We're going to go back around the wheel. But just off the top of your head, is there a contributing factor that you think we haven't quite got to yet?
Give me that again. If you can give me that again, I
Absolutely.
need a minute.
Absolutely.
I need a minute.
Yeah, of course. Ultimately, I'll keep it short and sweet. Suicide rates are still very prominent amongst men. There's more resources now than there ever has been. Do you think there's something that we're missing or that we haven't realized yet, a contributing factor to what why guys are trying and executing on suicide.
Yeah. Do I think there's something we're missing? 100%. There is no question in my mind. There's a lot that we're missing, but the problem is, I don't have the answers, and I don't know how many people do. And if someone did have the answer, then those numbers would be dialed back in and lined up. But and that's part of what we're doing right now, is knowing that there is something missing and being willing to do the work and figure out what we can do to chip away at it and make those numbers go down and moving forward.
Yeah, I appreciate that very much. Yeah, absolutely. Atlas, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, Kerry mentioned it's an incredibly difficult challenge because we would have solved it. It's like I don't want to use the cancer reference, but I mean, it's kind of a similar conversation where it's like, okay, if we knew the answer, right, things would be a lot different. And so I think for me, Kerry, I mean, your last answer was incredible to the last question. And I was just sitting here thinking of like one of the biggest challenges, whether it comes to the reducing the rates or creating that safe space or whatever, is like, I don't think that I ever saw that there was a perceived value. Like I never saw that there was value on the other side of opening up or sharing or being honest or being vulnerable. I never saw the value. If I was ever vulnerable, like Kerry mentioned, like it's pretty beat down pretty quick. So how quickly the value is kind of taken away. There's just more value in being quiet than there is being open. So I think that for me, it's like, if there's anything that maybe we're missing, I think it's like creating clarity around like there's value on this side of the equation. Like there's value in pursuing the authenticity and the genuine expression and admitting that, you know, you're having these kind of thoughts and these kind of experiences. I don't know if there's a sense yet that there's value in that world. And so I think that's probably, if anything, where I would probably start is like, how, even for us, how clear can we get in our messaging or in our shares or in our groups or our huddles? Like, yeah, how clear can we get? How concise can we get around like, listen, like this is no joke. You know, like this is the real deal. It's not mumbo jumbo bullshit. Come hang with the lads and then leave and have your same experience. You know what I mean? Like there's value here. I remember one of our last huddles, that's when that struck me, when it was just actually Fabian and I. Everyone was busy. We were moving through it and we ended up just having a chat for like 40 minutes. And we were about to kind of get off and somebody joined 40 minutes into the hour. And I remember thinking like the audacity to come to something 40 minutes late. Like I was so shocked with the audacity. I was just impressed at that point. I was impressed. And then I left that meeting and I can still feel the same emotion because somewhere we've created enough clarity for that guy that this is valuable enough. There's value enough for you to show up now 40 minutes later. And I think that's just incredible. That's massive. And I think that's what may be close to what an answer could be, is like just creating that kind of environment. I mean, grateful that we have. So that's what I got.
That's a great answer. That's a great answer. I that put a smile on my face. Like if it was me, I just wouldn't have gone. I was like, full stop. I applaud that. I applaud that gentleman. Yes, amazing. Stefan, I'm excited for your answer. Let's hear what you got. Do you want me to repeat the question?
No, I think I kind of have an idea what I had in mind. I have a completely different approach than you guys have taken, and especially when it pertains to like men's groups and stuff like that and the resources that are there. What I notice about men's groups is that they do one of two things. They either try to like feminize men that join, or they try to make it so masculine that it's like a caricature of being a man. And it's very difficult to find the in between where it's like, can we just be guys? Like, can we just be ourselves and just be people? And the ones that irk me the most are the ones that feminize men, because they try to just take the definition of masculine and just turn it on its head completely. It's already so difficult to define that they're just like, well, we can make anything masculine. We just color everything pink and say it's, you know, talk about your feelings and it's masculine because you're a man. And I find that a lot of the guys that end up starting groups like that really seem to be trying to make content and create spaces that don't really benefit men, but just try to impress the women that would have otherwise rejected them. And it's very transparent. And those really irk me because of what we're talking about is so serious that it's like, dude, you guys are playing with something, I mean, really dark and something that isn't getting any better. Please get out of the way. This part ends up being controversial because a lot of these groups and a lot of this men's movement has been in response to being called toxic for so long. And it's like, okay, not only are we not toxic, um, but we don't have to be feminine to prove that to you. And that's a huge part, at least to highlight a contributing factor, specifically pertaining to men's groups that I find. And then the other end of it, get a bunch of guys to, do like a fake boot camp in the woods and just get punched in the face for no reason and be like, yeah, I'm a man now because I did that. I don't know. I mean, maybe there's some benefit because there's some physical, exertion there, but yeah, I'm just not sold on it. What I find in my experience has been the best conversations that I've had and the most substantial conversations I've had with other guys have always been doing something. When I was instructing, shooting and weapons and stuff, like sitting there cleaning guns, and I had the best conversations with guys that I hardly even knew, and I could just sit there for an hour and talk to them, and they end up being people I talked to, for a long time. Um, we face a significant challenge with trying to get guys to like come together because like there's nothing natural about like, hey, you want to just sit there and look at each other and talk like that's weird no matter what. um so that's the part that we kind of got it, like what do we do to sort of manufacture that arbitrary thing that brings guys together, right? Whether it's a game or whether it's, like the food or the drinks that we have, whatever it is that we're doing, like how do we manufacture that thing, um, without having that there? I mean, luckily, the five of us have found each other in all kinds of different ways and it works for us. But that's probably one of the biggest challenges is how do you create a group that lets guys just be guys, bringing forth the best in them, letting them be vulnerable in a way that you don't have to say, hey, this is a safe space, because then automatically it's just like, all right, well, now this is a place I got to be soft. And none of it's not to say any of these things are actually objectively true or not, but these are the things that are floating around, the challenges of men's groups and getting men together with the suicide rate still, still sustaining the way it has been for so long.
Awesome, man. No, I knew you were going to come with some fire, and you certainly did that. I just want to point out that we're all just sitting around talking to each other, like face to face. Like, it's not weird to me. I don't know. Anyways,
The five of us are lucky. Five of
yes,
us made it
we are
happen.
lucky. We are lucky. Fair enough. Absolutely. Fabian, we will go to you last, and then we'll move to the next question.
Oh, okay. You're going to me now. Yes.
Well, yeah, last meeting right now.
Well,
Yeah.
no, I thought Hey, can you repeat the question?
You
One
bet,
more
you
there?
bet, you
Yeah.
bet. Yeah, absolutely. When talking about suicide rates in today's world, obviously they like essentially. I think the point of the question is like 5, 6 years ago when men's groups and started to become more prevalent. Men's suicide rates were very high. They still remain very high today. So, what do you think is a contributing factor that we haven't quite realized yet, or what, is there something that we haven't quite hit on?
All right, thanks, bro. You know what's interesting? Going last, I was like, oh yeah, last is so much better. But when you go last, you hear so many things, and then it kind of starts like seeping into your thoughts. So just quickly, I wanted to say I really appreciate the same as Atlas, is Carrie talking about the holding of space, and I think that is kind of what this group is for me personally. And I want to piggyback also on what Atlas said, why we do this, or for at least for me, and for the last however many years, whenever I start to like lose a little bit of focus or lose a little bit of energy for it, something like what Atlas talks about happens where nobody shows up, me and one guy, we have a great conversation, but I'm feeling a little guilty. It's not what Atlas is here for. I knew I brought him here to like help cultivate the community, and I'm feeling a little disappointed. And then that guy comes in and he's just looking for that space that Carrie mentioned, and then we're able to provide that for 25, 30 minutes, and you could just tell he needed to have a conversation with some guys. And the crazy thing is, the guy, I actually know him, and there's been multiple times where we could have had the one-on-one conversation, but it just wasn't the right space. So I left that conversation very similar to Atlas, just feeling it again. That thing that, we kept saying, like, what do guys need, or and then Stefan said it right there. Like, we have it for each other. Sometimes that we're that for other people, and it's huge. But if you ask me, like, directly, like, why I think, and it's crazy because all three of you touched on something that I would say. I do think today's society is affecting that. I think right now men are struggling to figure out what is it to be a man. And back in the day, it was easy. You go get a job, you get the wife, you provide for your family, you protect them. In today's day and age, how it is, in a lot of Western society, I should say, not everywhere, but it's split household incomes. It's both you and your partner have to go to work. It's your wife might not be able to, or partner might not be able to stay home with the kids like they did in the. And what does that do for the dynamic of things that we would traditionally say are not being a man? Like doing more stuff around the house, your wife doing more things that we would traditionally consider masculine. And when you take away the fact that men traditionally were protectors and providers, and it's now you're splitting that duty, I think a lot of men struggle with identifying where their place is. And I truly, truly believe that. Now, that's not to say that everything that's happened over the last 10, 15, 20 years has been bad in terms of, like, women's rights rising up and all that stuff. But I do think that men along the way, and it's the same way, I'll use an analogy, and I like analogies, but let's say you're at your office and you have a number two, and your number two is going to train your employees, but you pick up a ton of projects, and then your number two's really, they're tapped out. Who's training the new employees? Sometimes when we focus on the end result, we forget along the way. It's the same way as there's DEI, and there's systems and programs set up to get women back into school and to really spur that on and then raise that education. But who's suffering right now, and who's doing the worst in schools? Right? Like, you correct something and then you kind of forget about the other side. And I think men are really struggling with that piece now. So that would be my answer as to a reason as to why it's still continuing to rise, even though there's more support groups. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, really, really well said. Great answer. And I think yeah, you guys covered it very, very well. So, not anything really to add to that from me. I do want to take it to the next question, and it is focused, and I guess I just want to encourage you guys to really lean into the thought of suicide. That is our topic here today, and what we want to stay focused on today. So, I think these next few questions will do that for us. The next question is, what do you guys think we can do as men to be better prepared for a time you get a call from someone is in crisis, or is potentially close to the point of suicide or continuing suicide? We've all talked about groups in some form or fashion, creating space, finding groups, having groups, so I'd really like to dive into that. It's I know this topic came up in our past huddle around, how do you handle that phone call or that message or that situation where somebody you love is in a really, really bad spot and considering suicide. So, Fabian, we'll start with you, and then I may mix up the order, so you guys just stay on your toes. Okay, look alive out there. Okay.
Yeah. You know what? This one, I obviously we did have a conversation about this before, and I would also say, from a personal experience, obviously I've had a couple guys reach out to me and be in tough spots. And I've been that person that was, like, kind of caught off guard in terms of how to approach it, even though, again, around this space, around guys talking about it, more comfortable with that kind of a conversation. I believe, and this is just an idea that's been cooking in my head, I believe in, and I would challenge all the guys on this call, is your core group of guys, or your good guy friends, next time you're sitting around, broach the conversation. That's what I think we should do. I think we should sit down with the guys that we're closest with and say, hey guys, just throwing it out there. If you were doing really poorly and you were really struggling, and let's to talk about the word suicide or unaliving yourself or whatnot, or you're having any kind of thoughts like that, how would you like me to approach that? Like, what would you? And the reason I bring this up, it reminds me of when I was going to therapy with couples therapy when I first got married to my wife, and we started talking about let's have the conversations about tough things when we're in a good mental place. Let's talk about what we would do in case of a crisis, in case of something happens while we're good. Because I think the hardest part is to figure out what people are comfortable with and what they would want when they're struggling or it's in a trial fire or the pavement's hitting the road and it's like, wow, it's go time. That's not the best time to be figuring out the plan. So I would challenge the guys in this room and I would say, hey, the next time you're sitting with your group of 4 or 5 or 2 or 3 closest buddies, bring it up. Ask them. Let's run a mock scenario. This is happening. You're going through it. You call me. How would you like me to respond? Because I'll tell you, when it happens to you, it's not the same as you can read all the material you want, but when you hear somebody and they don't sound like themselves, and they're saying some stuff, and you're listening, and you're like, this is not good, and it's a very challenging conversation to have in that moment. So that would be my answer.
Awesome, man. I love that. Get ahead of it, get approach, get, kind of practice it almost in a sense. Like, sounded like Delilah maybe needed a chat too. She was in a little bit of a crisis mode there. So if you have
You know
time
what?
after
I'm learning a lot on this call. I'm learning a lot on this call. You got to separate Delilah and the baby. And take Delilah
Yeah.
downstairs. I'll take the
Sorry.
baby. I'm sitting there. When you're on
Yeah.
Microsoft Teams and it does the cancellation of noise. Like I'm always like, can you hear the dog? And they're like, no, we
Yeah.
can't hear anything. I was
Yeah.
literally there in my back of my head. I'm like,
Yeah.
hopefully they can't hear the dog crying, bloody murder. Hopefully they can't hear the dog.
Yeah.
First thing Derek says is, maybe Delilah needs some help from crisis manager. Yeah, okay, got
I'm sorry. Yeah, I had to. It was just too. It was just too there. It was too there. It was just right there.
You know
So,
what? Just so we're clear, so we can practice conflict
Mhm.
management. Next
Mhm.
time, should I pause the conversation and deal with Delilah, or should we just power through and pretend like nothing's happening?
No,
Let's
no.
talk it
I
out.
think you power through, man. Without that, I wouldn't be able to crack a sweet joke and get the boys laughing. So
Perfect.
I love chaos. So let's keep it rolling like that. Stefan, you look like you got something on the tip of your tongue, my friend.
It's just my face. Um, so there's two parts to my answer. The first one is it's extremely cliche, but it's cliche for a reason. It's very true. Is that the um, one, your character and the consistency of your character is going to make people come to you. Um, Another part of that is the way you value relationships is going to make people come to you. I had a situation a few years ago where it was someone that he was an acquaintance. He was a bartender at a restaurant that was by my house. I used to see him all the time. We had each other on social media, and I didn't really know many personal things about this guy. He was just a very, very infrequent drinking buddy that was just kind of around. And yeah, he hit me up at like it was like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and because at the time I was doing a lot of mental health advocacy stuff like within the military, because there's a huge issue in the military as well. I don't know about the Canadian military, I would imagine so, but the American military, I mean, has a big suicide problem. It has for a long time. And so he saw, the consistency there, the things that I talked about publicly, and the way that I was with my friends and everything, and the way I treated him, and he reached out to me, and it was a few hours of making sure he stayed on the phone and kind of like, it had a happy ending. He's doing well now. um but it was the foundation I was able to put down, with someone that I didn't even really think of as someone, really close, and he didn't either. But that consistency of character is what, made him reach out to me. um and then the other part too, when I have a situation like that is, how do I put this? Not aggressive per se, but very proactive in my response. For example, if I have someone hitting me up that's in a state like that, I'm immediately like, okay, where you at? And ready to go see them, or like, hey, come over real quick. Like, come over right now. No, I got you. Like, just or meet me, whatever. I find that to be effective. And of course, you got to follow through. And that's one thing I learned about and Fabian, you're saying it doesn't matter how much you read and how much you learn. I learned this when it came to like political philosophy and any kind of, self-help, style books is like that you actually have to care. You can't fake that part, and developing the humanity within you, being able to practice empathy that isn't fake, because people can tell, especially if you're in a hypersensitive, hyper aware state like that. You can tell when someone doesn't mean it. And so being able to be genuine that way. um and then what was the last thing I thought? I know. So Fabian, I'm gonna not necessarily push back, but expose a challenge with the idea of talking about, um, because it's an excellent idea to talk about, have the hard discussions when you're in a good headspace. But at the same time, it's like when I would teach students about, getting in, any kind of altercation where weapons are involved. You have no idea how you're going to react until you're in that situation. So I would consider that a significant challenge to that conversation of, if you're in that spot, how would you like me to respond? Because in a good headspace, they have no idea what they're going to need. And I think we're far beyond a practical sort of like solution set when we're talking about this specific issue. It's a good conversation to have, and it could lead to some, enlightening, things that would help you in a situation like that. Um, but I would find that part challenging, because if you ask me, how would I want you to approach? I might say like, well, give me some space, and then I get in that situation. I'm just like, dude, give me a hug right now. I have no idea. I have no clue. Um, so yeah, I don't know how to navigate that challenge. I think that is likely mostly remedied by the consistency of character. Um, but that's one challenge that I would see.
I would say that the act of the practicing those stuff, in my opinion, the act of having those conversations and practicing might make the person more comfortable when they're in that situation to be able to talk to you,
Mm,
right? Like if
sure.
you just go cold turkey and every conversation is about the Super Bowl and the baddies on the corner, and then all of a sudden it's like hit with that, and you've never even remotely had a conversation like it might help that you've had conversations, so the person's like, at least he asked me when
Yeah,
we're good, so he might be open to what I'm going through right now, right? Whereas if you
sure.
don't,
Yeah.
then it might just be a complete throw in the dart. So and you're right, it depends on the person, depends on the guy, and you got to read it. And I think the coolest thing you said, and now I'm jumping in and doing Derek's job, but I do really love when you said you have to mean it. I think that is the key to all
Mhm.
relationships. If you don't have authenticity and you don't actually mean it and want to be there for someone, then what are we really doing, right?
Yeah, I learned that when it came to reading books about like leadership and leadership philosophy, and just when it came to how you manage different arenas, pun intended. Just how you manage different things when it comes to people, and especially when I started supervising. And that's one of the number one things I tell people that are becoming supervisors for the first time, is that your well-being has to be tied to their well-being. And if they're not doing well, like, you should feel good. Not to say it's your fault, right? But you should, be kind of hand in hand with them emotionally and mentally, to a degree to where like you're actually going to care. Because people, I mean, people can tell. I mean, people are so much better at detecting when someone's bullshitting than they think. um, and it subconsciously affects how you interact with someone. I mean, if someone has that gut feeling, even if they choose to believe your intentions and what it is that you're saying, if they have a gut feeling that you're not being genuine, they're still not going to open up as much. That's still going to get in the way of them talking to you. So yeah, having to really mean it, having to care, there is no substitute for that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. That's I, the the thought of, when you're faking it. I think you hit it on the head, that people can pick that up really quickly. So, um, no, really good thoughts there. Atlas, you are next on my docket. Please fill us in on your thoughts.
So much for changing up the order. Hey, you had us all on edge, and
Hey,
now
whoa, what am I doing? What am I doing?
no,
Am I
you
here?
really
Am I
had me on
there?
the
What,
edge
I don't
the other
know. I
way,
don't know.
actually.
You guys are, there you go. You're really on your toes now.
Ah, man. This one is close to home for me for sure. Um, and so I think that I have a lot of mixed reviews, but so I have an experience where I didn't answer the phone, and I can obviously insinuate where that's headed.
Intentionally, or
Yeah,
like you
I was a
saw the
kid.
call and okay.
Yeah, I was young. This person and I had a strong friendship for quite some time, growing up, and then we had a falling out a little bit. I don't know. We lived in my house for a little bit. I had to kick him out. It was a bit of a mess. So we weren't really like super close, but I don't know. We didn't have any animosity at this point. And I had received a call, a reach out of some sort. I don't know what it could have been. And then it was very, very quickly around that time that he took his own life. And I have this like this kind of like, not, it doesn't loom over me anymore, but it did for a while, where you know I couldn't have known, so it's not uh any guilt or shame anymore per se, but at the time it was. And it's just an interesting memory to reflect on, because now when the phone rings, it's like immediate of like, okay, hold on, like could that be something more? It's likely not 99% of the time, but there's the 1% that my mind starts to think about it now. And I wonder what I could have said in that moment to him, if anything. And I think that's one of the reasons why I didn't feel comfortable answering the phone. I didn't really know what to offer him. I knew he wasn't doing super well, but I knew that he was kind of into drugs at the time. I didn't really know how to help with that. I didn't know the language or the support line. Like, what do you say to your good friend who's in the weeds with drugs? Like, hey, do you feel like you should stop? Like, I'm, I'm 18, 19 at the time, so it's a hard time to even fathom the idea of somebody doing that anyway. Right. So now as an adult, I try to think about it, but I still notice that there's just not a resource link for that I can just look up and say, okay, give me the answers. And when do I think I even need it? For me, it's a pretty complicated journey. And it's tough because I can hear how when I talk about it, my history with selfishness comes up. Like, oh, I don't know if I can take that on. Oh, I don't know if I can help. Like, am I even going to be of any help to this person? Like, I don't know. I got my own issues. Like, I can hear my selfishness come up, and I know that gets in the way a lot. It actually blocks me from connecting with a lot of people in my life. Is like, no, I don't know. I don't have time, or "Oh, I'm kind of busy, or like, I'd rather do this. Like, so I've always struggled with that majority of my life. So that comes up for me as something that gets in the way. And then the other piece in that selfishness, I think as I was listening to you, Steph, talk about it, um, self-esteem came up for me, which is an odd turn of events. And I think it came up for me because in order for me to feel like I have some sort of value to offer you, like I gotta have some sense of self-esteem. Like I gotta have some level of like, I don't know, I have value or worth here to be able to offer you any value of worth in the times of your struggle. And I just wonder if there's anything in there where we struggle with so much with our own self-esteem, self-confidence, self-worth, self-value, that when someone comes and says, listen, I think I'm at the end of my rope here, you're like, wow, I'm really not the person to do this for you. Because we don't see that there's anything more in ourselves to give. I don't know. Maybe I'm just pointing out some of the challenges here. I think I noticed that I do personally really struggle with the idea of answering that phone call, truly. And I'm not. I wish I could say I was the caliber of Steph. You know, truly listening to you and knowing that you're the gung ho guy and that you're gonna get after it. I fucking envy that. Excuse my language here, but I really do, because there's that part in you that exists that you're like, yes, I'm an action guy. That person's in trouble. Let's go. And I do care. I really do want to get after it, and I want that part of me. And then I hit a wall. I'm worried about not doing it right, or not saving them right, or being even responsible for saving them. Like, it comes up with that pressure and that concern in me, and then I think I just end up getting in my own way again. That like idea of selfishness. And so I don't know, maybe I just am blurbing here, but it comes back around to, I think what you said, Steph, was you really got to care. You got to care. And I think that's honestly actually one of the biggest part of my journeys is genuinely caring. But I wasn't able to do that, honestly, until I was able to genuinely give a shit about myself. And that's where that self-esteem part came up. And then I'm like, oh, I can care for you because I'm okay. Like it's interesting back and forth.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Very interesting. I resonated with a lot of that, what you said there. I think what you're saying though, back to the question is like, what can we do to prepare for that situation is just to like take care of yourself, like be in a good space yourself to be able to like see that call, have that intuition kick in and be like, "Oh, that could be a serious phone call, but I'm ready to say hello and see what's on the other side of it." So yeah, really good answer. Oh, we have a hand raised in the building. Okay. All right. This is new. Okay. Episode one. First hand raised. Mr. Warner, please. You're
Well,
muted. Let's go.
I was just curious, like specifically for Atlas, like, and because you and Steph have kind of outlined two positions that I've been in currently. I've been in a position where I've been that guy for other people, and I've helped one guy through it, and then I've been the other guy, Atlas, where maybe my cup is not full and I'm struggling. And I guess my question to you is, because I had another person that I was talking to who was struggling, but it was more of a long-term struggle. So it wasn't like they called me one time and I was concerned that they were there yet, but they were definitely they're heading in that direction if it continued to go. And I tried to help and whether it was financially or help. And then maybe it's because I just had my first baby. I'm running a little bit on fumes, work's busy, whatever, a combination of things. I've been at that stage on the second time around. So I guess for you, like, was it a consistent thing where the guy was calling you? Was it just because you wouldn't have known if that was the time, right? Like when I had the call when it was the time where I actually had to call the comps and whatnot, it was quite clear to me that I had to do something. Him knowing what we do here, him knowing that we're about this space, and for him to choose me of all the people to call from a different city in a different country, he chose to call me. I felt I had to. I didn't know what to do exactly perfectly, but I tried my best. I called the comps. Ended up happening. Long story short, that was pretty obvious to me. Whereas this other one that's kind of heading in a very negative direction, I'm in a different position mentally. So I was just curious on because you obviously that's a big blow for you to take and carry around for a long time. That's a big weight, and just knowing that you'll never really know unless you have a gradual buildup and then it's close and then you decided to not answer the call. But if it was just this one time, it's like I hope you don't hold yourself accountable in any way for that. And I just wanted to say that I've been both you and Steph and Atlas, so it's been very interesting to listen to you guys talk about it. But that's it. Sorry.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And just before you jump in, Steph, it was definitely spur of the moment for sure. Like no lead up, a bit of a shock factor for sure for all of us. And so definitely a unique situation in per se. Like it wasn't actually aware. So what could I have really taken on? Which is where I was able to kind of find some grace and compassion for myself through the process of healing that wound. But I think that I haven't really had to face it since. So I don't really know now. Like there hasn't been a lead up, or I haven't gotten like it's not something that has happened in my immediate life in quite some time. It's kind of more since then. It's been my extended like friends through friends and acquaintances and things of that nature that I've had that come up. So I haven't had to yet, which is obviously a blessing. But I still wonder a little bit sometimes. So yeah, Steph.
Yeah, so in my experience instructing, especially when it came to like combat skills instructing, we had a saying which was, "You don't rise to excuse me, you don't rise to the occasion. You fall back to your level of training," right? Which is why we gave them training on a variety of different skills that we didn't expect them to need, but if they ever had to use them, they could fall back to something that they knew. And I think in cases like this, it comes to that you don't rise to the occasion, but you fall back to your level of humanity. Um, I think Atlas, and if I were to sort of like Monday morning quarterback your situation, I think had you picked up the phone, I don't think your self esteem wouldn't have gotten in the way, and I don't think anyone in that situation, it's sure it's fair to want to have yourself together to have something to give. That doesn't mean that you wouldn't have the humanity and the empathy to do something, right? Maybe it is just sending cops over. Maybe it is just calling the suicide hotline on their behalf or on a three-way call with them or whatever. Um, at the same time, um, it doesn't sound like to me, Atlas or Fabian, that um, there was anything you guys perceived anything wrong being done, possibly at all, on your guys' parts until the event happened. Up until then, you were just enforcing healthy boundaries. That didn't change because of that outcome, right? You were taking care of yourself. You were establishing a boundary, and you were like, "Hey, look, this is a situation I can't be a part of." Um, had that event not happened the way that it did, it didn't end that way. That still would have been what you're doing. Right. That's what came up for me with both of you guys is with that situation that it's natural. And again, it does come back to humanity, being able to, you know, I guess feel that, carry that with you. Um, whether that's correct or not is beside the point. That's, you're a human being and another human being, theoretically may have been saved if something happened differently, but um, you were doing the right thing all the way up until a choice was made that wasn't yours, right? So you didn't stop having done the right thing just because of that. Um, yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Well said, gentlemen. Good conversations back and forth. I really appreciate that. Kerry has been extra patient, and I know that he's got a absolute home run of an answer coming up here. Do you need the question again, Kerry? Or are you good?
No, I'm good, man. Yeah, it's,
Beautiful. Fire.
lots of great points brought up, and obviously each one of them makes sense. And I think that and what I've with my thoughts, even if I would have went first or last, it's the same thing, and it touches on a few of them. But I think the first thing is have a plan, right? Like how can you be prepared for when or if that moment ever shows up? Have a plan, right? We all have a plan for everything, whether it's work or relationships or fitness, like whatever. We have a plan. Doesn't mean things always go as planned, but have a plan, right? That's the first thing. So, and then I think with, when we do have our tighter circles is being able to, and touch on Fabian is asking, hey, if we ever got to that point, like if you ever got to that point, what would you do? Like, what would you need from me? Because sometimes what we think we need and we apply to someone else, that's not what they need. And so, and a lot of times, we talk about guys being vulnerable and sharing, and sometimes guys, sometimes you'll get a legit answer. Sometimes they'll say, oh no, I'm good. But sometimes they'll need a little tough love. Sometimes they need to, not as much, but if it's about reading the room, but just the fact that you ask that question, hey, what would that look like for you? Like, I know we're good, but if we ever got to that point, what would you need from me? And how could I help? How could I serve? Like, and so there's that. And then I guess the next thing in moving forward, I guess, and this speaks to Atlas, and what you shared, Atlas, and everything like that, is knowing that you don't have to have the answer. And it's not your responsibility to say everything perfect or do. Like, again, we go back to what we chatted about earlier. Sometimes it's just about listening and holding space and letting someone be seen and heard and loved, as much as that doesn't seem like, love, if from an outsider looking in, two guys talking on the phone or two guys having a conversation face to face, whatever, but that is love, right? In holding that space. And sometimes it's that tiny shred of someone that's been in that moment, right? Is, I just want to know that there's a reason for me to still be here. And the fact that someone will listen is massive, right? And you don't have to have those answers again. Like, and then knowing what's your plan, right? And being able to share to someone, hey, I don't know, I don't have the answers for you right now, but I know that the world's a better place with you in it. I know that there are people that are trained, that are professionals, things like that. And that's where, again, we talk about we talked about it in the huddle, the International Suicide Prevention Line, 988, right? If you can't remember it, store it in your phone, right? Because there's going to be a time when you do need that. And I think, and I don't know if it was a podcast, again, I'm going to go with the Fabian disclaimer here. I'm not a mental health professional. I am not a, everything, but it was in a podcast or a book. I can't remember what exactly it was, but I've been there on a call with someone that's in that same spot. And it's a reframe, whether it's a pattern interrupt, whatever you want to call it, but asking, are you thinking of committing suicide? And it's a sharp, like, holy shit, I actually am I? Like, is that where I was going with this? Or to actually be like yes or no. And the person I was talking to in that moment said, yes, I'm thinking about it. And then being able to say, okay, so what do you need from me? What does that look like? Like, and being able to just again like react and be, I don't have all the answers, man, but I know I don't think that's the answer. And that's all they needed, right? And again, in that moment, that was probably about 3 years ago with that specific guy. And now, family, 2 little kids, has his own business. Like, you don't have to have the answers, right? But you do have to have a plan.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And
Steps
great
up.
shout out. I know, I see it. I see your real life hand, Stefan. Please give me 1 second to transition. I will. I just want to shout out, in all seriousness, the 988 number. That is something I did want to touch on before we close the call. So thank you, Carrie, for putting that out there. This is a great time just to say, across Canada, 988 is the suicide hotline. Help 24/7 assistance is there. Stefan, thoughts to you.
So first of all, is there like another like virtual hand you guys are using? Because I thought
Only
just
Fabian
did
knows.
this.
No, Fabian has a virtual hand.
Raise
Carrie's
a
now
hand,
raised
brother.
it as well.
It's literally
I
on
know
the
if you were
screen.
typing something in the chat.
Beside all the other buttons has a hand. You see
Oh,
that
raise
hand?
hand. There
I
it
don't
is.
have that. I'm
Really?
serious. I don't have that. Yeah. So we'll figure that out in episode 2, I guess.
They don't have that in the States stuff. You don't have that.
Riverside's a Canadian app, apparently. With and Carrie, I think it's an excellent strategy to be very direct about the question of suicide. What I found also works, maybe not maybe not instead, but maybe this could also work, with different in different settings or different personality types. But instead of asking, "Are you thinking of committing suicide?" ask, "Do you want to die?" And now again, it's very careful and delicate and make sure you're inserting in the correct context. But what that does is it takes it out of a mental health issue and puts it to a survival issue, to where it's a survival question at that point. And I don't know, I can't remember where I heard it, but something to where if someone was in their room about to pull the trigger and someone broke into the house and pointed a gun at them, they'd probably take the gun and point at the person that broke in the house. Um, and what happens there is that they go from, the mental health crisis mode into survival mode, and that takes over on a level that's far deeper than, wherever the mental health things are happening. And so that question kind of does that. And again, you reemphasize it is a very delicate way. You have to be very delicate with how you ask it. Make sure you're doing it. Make sure it's a proper question to ask, and the person asking it and how they're, you know be fairly confident that it's the right way to ask it. But that's a strategy that I have found to be much more effective, is putting them in a answering a question of survival as opposed to making it all about mental health.
That's a really good point. And I think the one thing I take away from this conversation specifically, gents, is I appreciate all your perspective and your experience in talking about it. I know we've had a couple disclaimers here that we're not mental health professionals, but I don't want to discredit the fact of the guys on this call and their experience of connecting with men and working with men and training men and mentoring men and guiding men and just through this. I mean, there's dozens of years of experience in this call. And so I don't want to belittle that fact, and I appreciate all the insight and the different perspective on these topics. My job here today is to moderate and to keep us on time. We are at just over an hour. I'm 4 minutes and 11 seconds behind schedule. It's killing me, but I do want to wrap this thing up with a question. I'm going to ask for a one-word answer from each of you. And then I'm going to encourage everybody to join us this Sunday at 10 a.m. for the Men's League Huddle. This will be hosted by Atlas, where we will pick up the conversation from this question and explore the answers in that huddle on Sunday. So, one-word answers. It's a good question. I think it's going to create a lot of thought and hopefully a lot of opportunity for everybody to come and share another hour with us on Sunday. Without further ado, the final question, and I'm going Russian roulette on this one. Around the circle. I know, probably not the
Russian
best way to say
roulette.
that. Yeah,
I like the
let's
head
edit
thing.
that
That's
out.
I was gonna say it. I was like,
Fuck, I was doing so good. Edit that
Dark
out. I'll
humor
start
is
again.
Good.
Foot in mouth. That's what I was thinking is essentially that point. We're gonna go around the table. And when I ask these questions, so we all know that men have. Let me start again. I'm gonna give us a nice pause so we can edit this properly. Final question. If men that have committed suicide honorably in the past had done so today, would we still view it favorably with no you? For example, E.J. Smith going down with the Titanic. I'll repeat the question one more time, yes or no answer, and then we will wrap this thing up. If men that have committed suicide honorably in the past had done so today, would we still view it favorably? Carrie.
sticking to one word. No.
Stefan.
Yes.
Atlas. That doesn't count. You're still good.
No.
Mr. Fabian Warner.
I love how Atlas can make no words seem like an actual sentence. That was impressive. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So for that is the question, and one that has spun my mind around in circles. So again, I encourage folks to join us this Sunday. It would be September 21st, I believe. Yes, at 10 a.m. You can sign up through the Discord and join us for our huddle. And before we go, we have a couple hands. Let's just do a round table and just final thoughts. That's a really good idea.
Derek, I just want to know your one-word answer.
Fair question. Okay. And then we're going to do a round table. Please mute your mics. My one-word answer. Actually, you know what? Scratch round table. This is it. We're going for it. This is the last word. If men that had committed suicide honorably in the past had done it so today, would we still view it favorably? Yes.